Welcome to Sideline Sports. You got the most important place with the most important face. Jon Shearer. You got Jake Malik and you got Eric Wilson. No JB. He's in Italy. How are you doing tonight, gentlemen?
I'm already regretting my choice to let you start the show because while that was funny and I was entertained by it, it was I think eccentric is a good word to describe that. And right before we started, you're like,
there's a lot of good stuff going on with the NFL, and there'll be nothing going on.
Eric, hold on. Eric has yet to say a single word before the show started. He hasn't said a word. The show has now started. We're even almost a minute in.
I think.
Hold on. We're almost a minute in. I have not heard him say a single word. Eric, first of all, how are you? Second of all, what's going on with the silence? I know there's something. I know something's up. I know it's not just an accident. I know that. I know this is calculated.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. It is always a pleasure to be a part of the flagship of the Sideline Sports Network, Sideline Sports. Shout out to our man JB holding it down in Italy. As long as that brother is safe and having a great time, that's all I care about.
Absolutely.
Jake, you're actually right. I was quiet, which is very uncharacteristic of myself this evening because, I wanted to hear from everybody. There was a lot of conversation happening today on our YouTube page with regard to what we're going to get into tonight. But Jon Shearer and I have a bit of a rivalry going on, if you will. If you notice, I am not dressed in my traditional attire. Yes, I have the hat, and I had to take my contacts out because I had my eyes dilated earlier, and I was just like, whoa, I need to chill. But typically, you do see me in a sports arena polo. Mondays and Wednesdays, it's black. Any other day of the week, I have several other colors that I can change from. But you see, Jon Shearer over the last few weeks has been poking at me, if you will, because he feels that the Ben Simmons, James Harden trade does not benefit Philadelphia. Although since James Harden has come to Philadelphia, they have been a winning percentage with him, James Harden, Ben Simmons. James Harden, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Travis Maxey. These gentlemen are putting up numbers. Travis, thank you. They're putting up numbers. And Jon Shearer is still in disbelief that the Philadelphia 76ers, as I have stated on numerous occasions, are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. He feels his Miami Heat are a better all-around team.
That's not a surprise. I'd just like to chime in and say, of course, he says that. That's how this usually goes.
Sometimes it is better to just lay back in the cut and just let things play out. However, see, Jon has been trying to get at me. He knows that only certain people can poke the bear, poke the dragon, if you will, before the dragon comes out. And Jon has done that. And so I feel it's only fitting that I appear here tonight on, again, the flagship show of Sideline Sports Network to say, Jon Shearer, as a Miami Heat fan, my brother, I am your worst nightmare. And I need you to understand that. And
I don't. After Saturday, I still don't.
And Matt is already in the chat saying we need to make a bet. So that's actually what I'm here to do.
$13.
No, see, Jon, I'm supportive of you when you go against Babs. I am in your corner. I might be the only person in your corner, but I'm in your corner for that.
That's a good corner to be in.
Jon Shearer is going to be victorious against Babs. But I think Jon Shearer.
Hold on, real quick reminder. Eric has got $14 on you, Jon. Remember that. Don't forget that. It's
actually
13.
It has gone up from 13 to 17.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh. Vegas line is moving a little bit.
Since you and I, Jon, are going to be together in the month of June.
Sure.
When the Washington Mystic face the Chicago Sky, I think you and I should make a little dinner bet, Jon.
Sure.
Whichever team is either A, still in the playoffs, or hopefully at that time we're both in a 7-game series. I think you
when
and
I
should
win,
have
I just want to let you know that I'm a frugal person, so I'm not going to order a lot. I'm an easygoing guy. I like my steak well done.
I'd like to point out he's doing this because
like hamburgers.
He knows he's going to lose.
Chicken tenders.
So his thing is, let me plant the seed to be, a little bit relaxed on this. That way, Eric maybe will return the favor. That's what this is about.
No.
I know.
No.
I'm a frugal
But Jon and I
person,
are going to do a dinner bet. Whichever team goes further, or hopefully it comes to fruition that our two teams meet in the playoffs, and then whichever team wins that series John and I are going to do a little dinner bet. That's what I would like to propose
let me ask
to
this.
Mr. Shearer.
Let me, as the middleman, because I have no stakes in this. What happens if you both lose in the exact same round?
Well, then
Oh,
the
then it's a wash.
tiebreaker goes to the higher seed.
No, it's a wash.
Why
John.
not?
Don't
I
even-
mean,
Okay,
we're
okay.
a higher seed. We should have a tiebreaker.
I think with the
Naturally,
tiebreaker,
we're 2-1
no,
against you.
I'm going to
That's
propose a
two
tiebreaker.
tiebreakers over
I got
you.
a better one for you. I'll propose an even better tiebreaker. Number one, the first tiebreaker should be who played more games in the series. If, let's say, John, your Heat, and I'm just making this up, of course, gets swept in whatever
Not
round.
going to happen.
This is
He
an
said
example.
hypothetical.
They get swept, and then Eric, your Sixers lose in 5 games. Eric wins the bet because his team staved off elimination and won at least one game in the series. And if that is the case, that they both lose in the same amount of games, then I think the next bet should be who had the better scoring differential in all the games combined. Make it a little interesting that way. So you take the combined games because now you got the same amount of games. Who had a better differential? I feel like those are tiebreakers that I guarantee you. One of which
I just want to point out
one of those
John
tiebreakers,
celebrating
someone
like
will
the Heat
win.
won the finals when Harden didn't play. I'm just saying the only game where Joel Embiid had a bad game in the last 500 games. Oh, what happened? It just happened to be against us where he went 4 of 15. Most of his points came from the free throw line. So stick it in that crawl, James Tatum. 4 of 15. Don't you forget that.
How do you know that
Come
James
down
that's
to Miami.
commenting right now?
James
That may
Harden
not
goes
be
out
James.
partying the night before, and then he doesn't play. Don't you give me that nonsense. You
All right,
remember
hold on.
that 4 for 15.
Before we get to that, do both parties agree to these stipulations that I've tried to help create for
Yes,
tiebreaker?
I am happy.
Do I agree to this?
Yes.
Do I agree
do.
to this deal? Of course. It's a great
All right.
deal. I think
All right.
it's a great
So,
deal.
Mark it down right now. It is March 8th. It is 8:37 p.m. Eastern time as we are live recording this. You have both agreed to this bet, and the stipulations were as follows. Whichever team goes further, their fan wins. Whichever one, if your teams go further, you win. If they end up in the same round and they both lose in the same round, whoever played more games in their respective round would also win. If it comes down to they both do that and they lose in the same round, lose in the same amount of games, scoring differential, that person with the higher
What you
scoring
mean
differential.
scoring differential? We're a higher seed, man.
That shouldn't matter.
should
Absolutely
count.
not.
Better
If
team.
anything, you're a higher seed and you lose, you should automatically lose
No, we
because
should
it's
be-
more
we're a better
pathetic that you
seed.
lose.
No way. Nonsense.
John,
We're
you
a
just dug
better
yourself a hole.
team.
If you're
We're
let's
a
say you're number
better
2 seed
team.
and the Sixers are the number 4 seed, right? I'm just
And we're
making this up.
beating them in the season series. So I'm
Hold on.
just saying.
But if the
right
number
now.
2 seed or the number 4 seed loses, which is bigger of a downfall? That's right, the number 2 seed. So, John, I'm trying to help you. Do not screw yourself in this situation. I am being neutral, but I will pick Eric's side if you keep just hurting yourself in these arguments. You're not doing anything for yourself. Just stop while you're ahead. Because I made completely fair
There's a
rules
method to
where
my
nobody
madness.
has any sort of advantage.
I agree to the stipulations, Jake, and thank you for bringing them to light.
I figured those would be fair, and they're completely unbiased. They don't favor either team. It's completely fair.
There you go.
There you go. All right, gentlemen, we got a lot of NFL stuff to talk about. I'll throw it to either of you on which thing you'd like to start with. There's, I would say, 3 pretty important topics that I feel like we need to cover at some point tonight. So whichever of those 3, I'm assuming you both know which 3 I'm talking about. I mean, there's 3 major stories from the past 2 days. So whichever you'd like to start with, I'm all for it.
Well, I'll start by saying I got fooled yet again. The okie doke, the banana in the tailpipe. The word had come down on Twitter that Aaron Rodgers had signed a deal with the Green Bay Packers, 4 years, $200 million, $153 million guaranteed. Well, that was a false narrative.
Yep.
He said that he will, in fact, be returning to the Packers,
but they didn't specify.
But the discussions of his contract were still, there was no agreement. And so, the news came down. We jumped on the Sports Arena. It did a quick, 30, 35 minutes just talking about the expectation, talking about where he is. And then to follow that up by finding out that it was false, the contract.
The deal itself, yeah.
The deal itself, thank
Right.
you, yeah. So I got fooled. I
Okay.
fooled for the banana in the tailpipe. And
you know what? Here's what I'll tell you. It's pretty simple. Who'd you hear it from? You probably heard from Schefter, right?
Or Rappaport, one of the two.
Right.
Yeah.
One of those two, right? Whose fault is that? Is that ours or theirs? Right? Ultimately, they're the ones that we get the information from. We don't have our own sources. Those are those guys. I think a lot of people were fooled, even them. And you know what? It's okay because we're not alone. They were fooled. We were fooled. Everybody was fooled. You know what? There's nothing you can do about it. And I look, I appreciate the honesty, but I think we were all fooled. I don't think there's, an outlet out there that can't say they got fooled. Everybody did because you know what? You heard it from one of those two, and you said, "Oh, there you go. There's the news," and that's it.
But I have to agree with Matt, who's in the chat, saying from moving forward, I'm just going to listen to Pat McAfee when it comes to Aaron Rodgers.
I was going to say, hold on. If you're going to say you're listening to Pat McAfee, period, we need to have a very serious discussion. If you mean just in regards to Aaron Rodgers,
yeah,
I'm all in for it.
Yeah.
But I want to ask this. So Aaron Rodgers goes back to the Packers, whatever. Now that deal, we don't know if those figures are even remotely true. I don't know because it could be like, a couple $1 million off here or there, or it could be like $100 million off, right? We don't know. But let's just, for argument's sake, say those numbers are somewhere in the ballpark of realistic. Are the Packers insane? Like, I think they're overpaying if that's the case. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'll keep my thoughts of why I think they're paying too much to after I hear what you two have to say. But let's just, again, for argument's sake, say those numbers are somewhere in the right ballpark. He just doesn't want it to be coming out yet until it's signed and official. What are the initial thoughts from you two? Because Eric, I know you guys did a live video on the channel today, but again, I told you I didn't watch it on purpose because I wanted to have this conversation be as genuine as possible. So you may be repeating yourself, but I have no idea.
So what I said was, do I feel they're overpaying for him? And I never really said a yes or no. What I said was he needs to come away with 2 Super Bowl championships. If the contract that was put out today, 4 years, $200 million, $153 million in guaranteed money, and the fact that they have franchise tagged Devontae Adams, they need to win 2 Super Bowls. And I said there are 2 things that I need Aaron Rodgers to do. Number 1 is beat San Francisco in the playoffs. And number 2, win a Super Bowl. Do I feel they overpaid for him is your question.
Assuming
when
that
you're
deal
a two-time
in the ballpark, right?
When you're a 2-time reigning MVP, you have owned the NFC North pretty much your entire career. Every year, it is pretty much the Green Bay Packers and then maybe another 2 or 3 teams within the entire conference. And then everybody else. It's hard for me to say that they overpaid because Green Bay realizes they got a top tier guy and they have done everything to keep him, including back the truck up to his house and say how much you want. We got you the running back that you wanted. We got you the wide receiver that you wanted. We got you the coaches that you wanted.
Got you Randall Cobb last year.
Right.
Yep. We got your old friend,
that Green Bay, the organization, can do. So
you can't do more for that man. You've done everything. Right.
Do I feel they overpaid for him? That still remains to be seen. If this contract, if he plays this full contract, which is 4 years, and he comes away with 2 more rings,
absolutely,
the contract's worth it. But right now, the jury is still out.
Okay. Now, if he comes away with no rings but multiple MVPs, just out of curiosity, what would your verdict be on that?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
He has to come away with two Super Bowl rings. He needs to leave with a minimum of 3 rings. He's already got 1. You got to get 2 more.
Fair. Okay, John.
Yeah, it's not about whether they overpay him. It's about what they do with the rest of the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's Aaron Rodgers. You Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, guys like that, you're not overpaying because there's only so many actual quarterbacks that you want on your roster. You know what I mean? You don't want to be left with Jordan Love or go get Drew Lock or Cam Newton or, PJ Walker or somebody. Like, you don't want to be stuck with that. And quarterbacks are at a premium, so this is what the market dictates. A four-time MVP, back-to-back winner. Of course he's worth it. But it's a matter of what you do with the rest of your money. That's what matters. Because special teams is the worst in the NFL. Got to fix that. You're probably going to have to cut the Smith brothers or at least one of them. And your defense isn't that good as is. Your line gave up the least amount of pressures in the NFL, and that was without Bakhtiari. So remember that. Least amount in the NFL of pressure. So Rodgers has a line that protects him even when Bakhtiari didn't play.
You just brought back your star receiver. You got your running back.
But you need more receivers.
No, I'm just saying. But I'm saying
Devontae
your number
Adams
one guy
is great.
Back.
But we saw what happens with the Niners game. Like, when you take Devontae Adams away and you bracket him, who else is there? Scantling's a free agent. You bring him back, he's not very good. Lazard is not very good. Your tight ends aren't very good. I mean, Tunyan's coming off an ACL injury. Like, you have no receiving options outside Devontae Adams. Special teams worse in the league. And the defense is suspect, and you're probably going to get rid of one or two of your really good pass rushers. Like, Green Bay is going to be in the same boat come January. I'm not knocking them for getting Rodgers because you had to do this.
Understood.
There's nothing out there that you could get. Nothing.
Yep.
Unless you go get Russell Wilson, there's nothing. Like,
but there's nothing that really truly compares.
But then you got to trade picks to get Russell Wilson. So, like, they had to do this. There was no other option. And this signifies that the 3 years you've had Jordan Love, it's over.
Yep.
Like, there's no more Jordan Love. So now you got to figure out one of the worst moves in first round history because you traded all the way up to get this guy, and he never really played. Never saw what he had. He played, one or two games, like, starting. So, I mean, now you got to figure out what you got to do with Jordan Love. And clearly, at least for my money, his trade value is not going to be high. So, I still think Green Bay's in the same damn position they're in come end of January. No, looking up, saying, where did we go wrong? Because you're not going to fix the other issues. You're just focusing on Rodgers and Adams and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and saying, carry us. Like, it's a 53-man roster. You can't win with a couple of guys.
That's why I would have to disagree with both of you. I agree with one thing you both said, which is you got to lock up Rodgers. Nothing against that. Quarterbacks are at a premium. That's always going to be the way it is, and that's fine. But again, now we know this deal is probably not real. Like, it's we don't know that it's factual and it's accurate.
It's going to be more than the $46 million cap hit that he had. It's going to be higher than that.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
My point is you're paying him all this money, but really think about what you're getting. You're getting the band back together. You're getting a guy that hasn't brought you to the promised land in quite some time. You have bringing back a guy. Well, again, he's an MVP, back-to-back MVPs. He's got 4 of them in his showcase. He's one of the all-time greats. But he has had failure after failure after failure after failure in the playoffs in recent memory. Just the past few years, he's had that many failures. Let alone his whole career, he's only had one big run where he won the Super Bowl, where he captured the Lombardi and he said, I am a world champion. I agree that you need to lock up Aaron Rodgers. That's not what I'm going to say. But that kind of money, I'm sorry, is just outrageous. Now, again, I understand quarterbacks demand a lot of money. But if Aaron Rodgers wants to win a title, which I'm assuming he does because that's why he'd come back. At this stage of his career, I don't think he's coming back because he wants more money. It's because he loves the game and he wants to play more. I would be shocked if he straight up said to them, no, I need all this money. I can't possibly take any sort of pay cut. I got to get like $50 million a year, right? I think if that is how he is, which I don't think he would ever, I think he's a diva, but I don't think he'd ever be that far. I think he would sacrifice money for winning. I think it is too much money because, again, he's a great quarterback, and I know you got to lock him up. But, John, you hit the nail on the head. You've got to fix the rest of your problems. And spending it all in one position, you're screwing yourself. You're giving no chance to win because all the Packers did in today, right? They spent a bunch of money probably. We don't know what they actually spent on Rodgers, but realistically, they probably spent quite a bit of money regardless of what that contract is in length and actual money. I'm sure it's a good chunk of change. It's not going to be cheap. You brought Davante Adams back on a franchise tag, and you probably did that because you're going to pay out the money to Aaron Rodgers, so you can't shell out money to actually give Davante Adams the contract he deserves. And you probably just spent a majority of the money you had for free agency on the same two guys to just keep the same few players together. But guess what? Nothing is fixed. So as far as I'm concerned, like John said, you're right back where you were a couple months ago at the end of January, right? You're right back where you were. You haven't fixed anything. You brought back Rodgers and you brought back Adams. That's it. Congrats. But to me, it's not money well spent, because while you got to bring those guys back, you got to improve the team, because unless you won the championship, your team was not the best it could have been, obviously. Okay.
So,
the only team that you could say was the best it could have been based on the roster and obviously the circumstances and all that were the LA Rams. They won the Super Bowl. They might not have had the perfect team on paper, but everything went right. They're the only team you could argue that say, hey, they were the perfect team. They won for a reason, right?
But Jake, what's the alternative?
Oh,
I mean,
I'm saying, Aaron Rodgers is going to take less money.
There.
That's what I'm saying.
If you let Rodgers go,
Aaron Rodgers
hold
is
on,
making
Jake,
too much
if you
money.
let
That's what I'm
Rodgers
saying.
go, what's the alternative?
Oh, I agree. I'm saying if that's the deal he's getting, that is too much money. And
Okay.
I'm saying I'm not blaming the Packers. I'm blaming Rodgers for not saying.
But that's the
"Let me take a pay
market. That's
cut."
what the market dictates.
Right. Patrick Mahomes set the market,
Yes.
being
Right,
a
but-
$500 million 10-year
Right,
quarterback.
but that's the thing. It's 10
Okay.
years, and he's young.
But Rodgers just won back-to-back MVPs. He
You're-
has not only that leverage, but he has the previous leverage with the Packers at
Right, but
back-to-back MVPs, and you're already getting a $46 million cap hit. Of course you're going to get a raise. You just
Right.
won back-to-back MVPs,
Right, but-
And also,
he wants to win. He's not helping his team to win. That's where I
okay,
that's where I
this
take
is
issue.
what- okay, but I disagree with you. I disagree with you in this regard. And very rarely will I ever compare divisions. But let's think of it like this for a minute. Let's take a look at the NFC South right now. The NFC South is Matt Ryan's division to lose. Okay? It's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. The NFC North is Aaron Rodgers' division to lose. So you look at the schedule. You got 6 games where you're going to go 5-1, if not 6-0, playing against the Chicagos, the Minnesotas, and the Detroits of the world. That's number one. Number two, you have proven that you can go back-to-back 13 wins in a regular season. 13. They added an extra game, and okay, you lost that one. But that's because you didn't come to training camp, and then you got your ass handed to you the first game of the regular season against Jacksonville. So then what did you do? You ran off 13 wins and you lost 3. I mean, the Aaron Rodgers understands where he is at right now. He understands the system. He understands the situation. He understands the circumstance. He only has 2 things that he needs to do, 2 obstacles that he needs to overcome. Beat the San Francisco 49ers in the postseason, win a Super Bowl. And I guarantee you, if he does the first, the latter will come, because we have seen it. We know what he's capable of. Outside of bringing back Clay Matthews as a linebacker, okay, that's the only thing missing from Aaron Rodgers being successful. So that's why I say I can't judge the contract, whatever it may be. But if it is close to what was reported earlier today,
Right.
I can't argue that, because it doesn't matter. He's going to go out there. He's going to do what we expect him to do. And then it's just get over the hump. Get that monkey off your back, beat San Francisco in the playoffs, and then go win a Super Bowl in Arizona. You know, that for me will be okay. Aaron Rodgers clearly now, and again, people are like, well, he's 38, 4 years. If that's the contract, he'll be 42. He's not Brady.
To me, that means nothing because
Right. That's exactly my point.
no, the
So-
4
He
years
doesn't
to me
take
means
many
nothing.
hits either. He doesn't.
doesn't.
Take many
No,
hits.
but forget that. To 42, Tom Brady could do it, and I'm not trying to compare them, but they're both fantastic quarterbacks as they're getting older. To me,
And
that
I
was
just
not a
got done
concern.
telling you guys he was the least pressured quarterback in the NFL this
Right.
year.
But forget that. Even forgetting that, I mean, I look at Tom Brady. If Tom Brady was doing what he was doing, Aaron Rodgers just won back-to-back MVPs. He can do that too. I'm not worried about the age thing. I'm not one of those people that worries about the age. If
You
you're
know who
playing,
was 28th in pressures last year for an offensive line? The Denver Broncos.
Oh,
28th.
You want to
And
just
Russell
transition to
Wilson
that?
has gone there.
That's what we want to talk about. We're going to just skip over the rest of the Aaron Rodgers stuff. Okay.
I'm just
Well,
telling you. I'm
no.
just telling you. Aaron Rodgers was the best in the NFL, his line in that regard, and the Broncos were one of the worst at 28. I'm just saying. I want you to know that. So that's on the table.
I will finish this, and then we can move to the Broncos talk because I know you want to talk that. That's fine. That's like I said. That's on the docket. We got to talk about it. Trust me. I know we got to keep things moving because there's a lot of stuff to be covered today. I know. Look, I agree with everything you said. I'm cool with that. It's just for me, I wish, like if I heard tomorrow the actual deal is $40 million a year, I would say, you know what? That's good. You know why? He took a small pay cut, but it's a pay cut nonetheless, and he just freed up cap space for his team to go out and sign somebody else with that new money. That's where I take the problem.
But it's hard to ask a professional athlete who just won back-to-back MVPs, hey,
and
take
who
less
knows
money.
what the market is for his
right.
position.
I understand.
I can't reach into somebody else's pockets and say, hey, you should take less. Like,
you know what?
How can you ask Aaron Rodgers that?
What I
mean?
Look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady did that his whole career.
No, I get that. But
and I know the market was different.
Now,
the market was different. Granted, that needs to be clarified. The market was different, 10 years ago when Tom Brady was in his prime getting these contracts than it is now. But Tom Brady was not one of those quarterbacks that was at the very tippy top. He was actually probably maybe top 10, but he wasn't number 2 or 3. Like Aaron Rodgers is going to be number 1 or 2, depending on his contract, most likely. Tom Brady always said, all right, let me take a little bit of a pay cut to let my team get what their needs are, right? To funnel that money somewhere else. And that, to me, that's what a good leader does. And Tom Brady went out and won MVPs too. He won Super Bowls. He won Super Bowl MVPs, and he did all that and still wasn't forcing the pass to say, give me all the money, give me all the money, give me all the money. And even when he went to Tampa, he did the same thing. Now, he got more money in Tampa than he got in New England, but he still didn't say, give me all the money, give me all the money. He still took somewhat, if you will, of a pay cut to allow his team to go get other players to improve his team. And so, again, that's where I take the problem. And it's not the Packers' fault themselves. I'm taking fault with Aaron Rodgers with this, that the man should say, look, I did earn this money. You're right. But I also want to win. And I know the only way to win is to fix the issues. That's my problem. It's not that he doesn't earn it or deserve it. That's not it. It's that if you want to fix things, right, it costs money. Where are you going to make up that money? You might have to loosen up your pocket just a little bit, buddy. It's just.
I mean, they've won, 13 or more games, like Eric said. They keep winning 13 more games. Like, at some point, this has to fall on Rodgers. Like, this is every year.
That's
they
my
just
point.
Win double-digit games. They get far into the playoffs, and then they just collapse.
And that's my point.
Just say, well, the team sucks because, they're getting deep into the playoffs and winning 13 games, and every year it's
But look at this year,
ending.
for example.
Why
did they lose this year? They lost this year. Special teams was a big issue. Special teams was part of the reason they lost
so was
this year
the
in the
offense. So was the offense not doing anything but scoring a touchdown in the opening drive,
no,
and then
that's my
it.
point, though. What was the exact thing you said, John? They need to go get another receiver.
Right? Oh, yeah.
And how are they going to do that with all that money tied up in Aaron Rodgers' contract? Exactly my point.
Well, remember they spent big money on Jimmy Graham a couple years ago for him. Yeah. They signed him to a big contract a couple years ago when he came from Seattle. You know what I mean? So it's not like they haven't tried.
No,
I mean, this guy's had
but Aaron
Brett
Rodgers
Jennings in his career, Jordy Nelson.
I'm just saying,
this
Aaron
guy's
Rodgers
had Donald Driver.
Is not helping anybody.
It's not like this guy hasn't had great players around him in his career.
I know. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying. You specifically said he needs another receiver. The only way to get another receiver is save a little bit of that cheddar and put it somewhere else.
Maybe tell Devontae Adams to take less.
Devontae Adams got franchise tagged. He didn't ask.
He wanted $30 million.
But he didn't get it, so it doesn't matter. He didn't get what he wanted. He got franchise tagged.
Well, they can't afford what he wants.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
The team is tied up paying players like Aaron
But
Rodgers.
is he going to be okay with them cutting one of the Smith brothers to go and get him another weapon? And then the defense isn't as good.
Probably. Yeah. You know why
is he going to be happy when the defense is giving up points in the playoffs?
But you know why he wouldn't mind?
Losing by 2
because
touchdowns?
the narrative. No, I'll tell you why he wouldn't mind. Because the narrative wouldn't be Aaron Rodgers didn't score enough points. Aaron Rodgers didn't do this.
But he still
Aaron
wouldn't lose. He still wouldn't have another ring. That's the thing, and it's all going to fall back on him.
He is a diva, and you know that. And
I
you
know. I'm just
that
saying,
he
like,
doesn't
to
want
Eric's
the attention to be
point,
blamed at him. He wants other people to take the blame. You know that. You know that. Eric knows that too.
Listen, all I'm saying is this. Since LaFleur and Rodgers have come together, you know what their record is? Do you? I'll tell you. 39-10 in the regular
Yeah, it was
season.
something like that.
Yep.
39-10 in the regular season the last 3 years. 13-3,
What's the playoff
13-3,
record? Out of
13-4.
curiosity.
So, they have the formula to get it done. They just have to get the proverbial monkey off their back, which I say if they come to play San Francisco again in the playoffs and they find a way to beat the San Francisco 49ers, they are going to
still
got to
beat the Rams. The Rams aren't going anywhere.
I'm not saying that, but if it matches up to where
Eric
Green Bay and San Fran play each other, that's what I'm saying.
Eric is just basically pointing out the fact that Aaron Rodgers' biggest bugaboo, if you will, has been.
I love that. Thank you, the bugaboo. I like that.
I was like, oh, that's a good one, right? Yeah, but you're right. You're right. What has plagued him almost every year in the playoffs? When he faces the Niners, it's like he falters. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So, all right, John, you wanted to talk about Mr. Russell Wilson himself, right?
Yeah.
Chef Russ, I'll give you the floor, sir.
I thought it was asinine listening to the Sports Arena show today. You guys talking about...
Whoa.
Hold on. Let me finish my thing.
Wow.
Ray Lynn said they're a quarterback away, and you clearly, Ray Lynn, have done no research on the Denver Broncos. You've done zero research on the Denver Broncos because anybody that says they're a quarterback
John,
away
can you give me
has
2
not
seconds?
paid
Can you just pause for 1 second, buddy?
to this team.
Just 1 second. I just want to put this up because that was just under fire. So we are not responsible for your thoughts or actions or words. This is all you, man. I got to cover our butts.
This team is not a quarterback away. Their offensive line wasn't very good this past year. Their offensive line hasn't been good.
Hold on, John. What was the stat you threw at us about?
They were 28th. They're
that was least pressure.
The Broncos, no, in most pressures allowed,
okay.
They were 28th. Packers were first. Broncos were almost dead last. So they allowed almost the most pressures in the NFL.
That doesn't make sense. You mean
28th? 28th. So when you give up yards, yes, almost dead last.
So
yes, that's bad.
Most pressures allowed at the top would be the worst.
No, first place. It's like giving up yards allowed. You're first in yards allowed as a defense. You've let up the least amount of yards.
That's right. So that's a bad thing.
First is good. You want to be the best team in the league. The Broncos gave up the third least amount of points.
Whatever.
So the Broncos
I
were
get what
one
you're trying
of
to say.
The Broncos were one of the worst offensive lines, at least when it comes to pressures this past season. Maybe part of that is the quarterbacks are just terrible there. But when the line isn't very good, and Courtland Sutton, I know you talked about him earlier because I listened to what you said, and I liked Courtland Sutton coming out of the draft, but I need to see him put it together. I need to see him not be injured because he's been nothing but injured. He's been inconsistent, and this is a guy I really love his talent, but he hasn't put it together yet. And hopefully Russ can be that guy to pull that out of him because I love what Courtland Sutton can be, but I haven't seen it yet. Jerry Jeudy, he has them Eagles, Nelson Aguilar hands. He got hands of stone.
Wow.
He can't catch a ball. So
I don't know if I would say that.
I'm waiting for Jerry Jeudy to be able to catch a football because he hasn't figured out that you're supposed to, as a receiver, catch a football. Noah Fant, who was disappointing, is gone. So you no longer have a tight end. Your offensive line isn't very good. The receivers need to step it up. The running back is fantastic. They got Mike Munchak as an offensive line coach, which I absolutely love. They got Melvin Gordon. That bum is gone. So finally, Javonte Williams can get all the carries he wants, and I think that's going to be great for the Broncos. I think it'd be great for Russell Wilson. The defense, it was a little bit of fool's gold. I was looking at some of their rankings. They're a little bit of fool's gold in that defense, but they did allow third least amount of points. So they're really good in that aspect. So my point is they're not a quarterback away. They still have some holes. They have some issues. They're going to lose that number 9 pick in the draft. So they're not going to be able to address that with a top pick. Now, let's just kill the narrative that they're a quarterback away, because that's just stupid. That's just asinine. You're not paying attention to the team. That's my little rant on the Broncos, because I wanted people to know you need to study teams a little bit better than just heat of the moment garbage.
So I think what I'll say about Ray Lynn is this.
I love Ray Lynn. I just want all the people out there, because there's more people out there that are going to say they're a quarterback away. No, you do your research. The Broncos are not the Bucs. They don't have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
I don't think they're a quarterback away from winning a championship.
But that's the point, is they have to win a championship. You trade all that to get him.
Hold on, relax. I'm not going to disagree with you, man. Whew. I'm going to say I think they're a quarterback. They were a quarterback away from making the playoffs, and that is a fact. And I will tell you this. Do I think they're a championship caliber team at the current state that they sit at? No. But here is the thing. If you make the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Because you know what? Anything can happen in the playoffs. And Eric knows that better than anybody else, right? His Philadelphia Eagles, as much as it pains me to talk about it, they won a Super Bowl. And who did they win it with? They won it with Nick Foles, of all people. Okay, the man is not even good enough to be a starter at this point. And it's not disrespecting him. It's just, that's the way it is, right? He wasn't the starter on that team. He wasn't the starter on the team he's on now. He's not going to probably be a starter most likely for the rest of his life. And that's just the way it is. But it doesn't matter, because you know what? At the end of the day, he is one of two people to beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. And you know what? That is something he can hang his hat on all day. And that's what's important here. Russell Wilson has won a championship before. He's not just Nick Foles, right? He's not just some guy that's really a backup quarterback that, I don't want to say got lucky,
this organization in the Denver Broncos.
But he got hot, right? What happened with the Eagles? They got hot. They caught fire. Things went their way. And that's just the way, and that's what happens in the playoffs sometimes, right? And there's no disrespect, but that's the way sports work. But here's the thing. Russ is a good quarterback.
Russ won a Super Bowl based on that defense.
No. Hold on. But what I'm going to say is this. Russ is a good quarterback. He's not nearly as good as what he used to be, though. I know he's not.
Well, in 2020, he threw 40 touchdowns.
Hold on. Let me finish. Russ is not as good as what he used to be. You look at last year, it was not a great year. I'm not saying he's bad, but I'm not saying he's, in his prime anymore. He's not that same Russell Wilson. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
He's going to be on a team with not nearly as good of an offensive line, which is going to hurt him. But here's the most important thing. I think he can get to this team to the playoffs because they have a strong defense and they do have some weapons on that offense. And with the right quarterback, I do think they have a chance to play really well. I think a good quarterback does help receivers and other offensive players improve their play. I think that's just the way that goes. And B, if he gets them to the playoffs, I do believe they'll have a chance, depending on how their season looks, how the team shapes up to be, depending on what happens, right? And just, the general fact of who makes the playoffs that year, because you don't know who's going to make the playoffs this year. Honestly, we don't. I can tell you one or two teams that'll make it, but that doesn't mean anything to me because it's the same thing every year. We don't know. So I'm not guaranteeing he's going to win them a championship, John. You're probably right. He won't. But there's A, free agency still left. B, he'll help them make the playoffs for certain. And C, as soon as the playoffs start, it's a whole new world. It's its own beast. It's completely different. Things are basically reset to some extent. So I give every playoff team some sort of chance, and I do think this is at least a playoff team now. So when Ray Lynn said they were a quarterback away, I disagree that he was saying they were a quarterback away from a championship.
Well, that's the whole point.
No, I know, but I'm saying
say they're a quarterback away from improving by one win.
I know, but they were a quarterback away from making the playoffs. And if you make the playoffs, you always have a chance. Even if it's a low chance, it's still a chance nonetheless.
So let me address not only the two of you, but let me address the people in the chat who are asking us to address the comments. John, I'll start with you. First off, the next time you formulate your lips to say that the sports arena was asinine today and what we were talking about. I
said some of those things you guys said. I watched
some of the things we said were asinine. Guys said. John, next time, you know what? Bring yourself on the show.
You know I'm always available.
Yeah, you were today. So
Ellis asked people to come on.
So was I. So was I. No excuse, John. Shut
Oh
your mouth
yes,
and
let me
shut your mouth
stop
and open your
making
ears. So
stop making windows.
So let me say this, okay?
Yes, John.
First off, what he said was his opinion. And whether I agree or disagree with it, the fact of the matter is Denver got better because they acquired Russell Wilson. Now, to Jake's point, Jake is saying they are a quarterback. Now that they have him, they're going to make the playoffs. Well, let's not forget, you're playing in a division that has Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Carr. You got to see them 6 times. So Russell Wilson has got to be the guy now to supersede those 3 guys, because Denver has always been third, if not bottom of the barrel. Now, to the comments that people are chiming in, I'm reading some of them. First off, John spitting facts, Broncos quarterbacks always bust. Your shirt, John, apparently makes you less credible, but they still agree with you, which means they're not Oriole fans. The supporting cast is shot. Well, I disagree with that, because I do feel, as I said earlier, if Judy and Sutton and Wilson can form a chemistry, I think Sutton stands to have a breakout year. We know what the run game is. Let me find out who their tight end is going to be, and then we can have that conversation.
I think
the defense is a bend, don't break.
To your point about receivers, I think a great example is Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford. Cooper Kupp was a good receiver before Matt Stafford showed up. Then you add a good quarterback, they make a connection, boom. Now he's one of the best players in all of football. He's one of the best receivers you could have. Point proven.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. So a quarterback can really make that difference. And that was a good, I didn't think about that until you said what you just said.
And this is my last point. Since you want to talk about the Rams, more importantly, Cooper Kupp, okay, look what the Rams did last year. They threw in all their chips to get Matt Stafford. Denver kind of doing the same thing. As the season progressed, they brought in weapons on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball to strengthen the team. So we still don't know, aside from what they're going to do in the drafts coming up in about a month and some change. Then we have the start of the season. And they are going to, I think, at some point realize, hey, we need some complementary pieces to make this team not only a playoff team, but we have a true, not a legitimate, but a true shot of making a run in the postseason.
Yep.
So that is why I say Russell Wilson to Denver. New system, new coach, new weapons. Let's see how it plays out before we decide boom or bust. Because the Rams just proved, so did the Bucs 2 years ago. The Bucs proved it. The Rams just did it. So why can't Denver with Russell Wilson do the same exact thing? Not saying it's going to happen, but they are putting themselves in a position to where if other big names want to come, because I'm telling you what, if I'm Tyler Lockett, I'm on the phone with my agent saying, do whatever the hell you got to do, but put
get me out of here,
my man.
I agree.
So can I address guys saying that he sucks and that he's out of his prime?
Who, Russell
Let me just
Wilson?
read.
Let
me just read you.
Hold on. I didn't say suck.
No,
I
in the comments, somebody said he sucks.
Oh, okay.
Let me read his
I thought you
record.
said me, because I said all I said was he's not in his prime anymore, which is a fact. I didn't say he's bad, though. He's still very good.
It's not a fact. It's not a fact. You're wrong. Let me read his record in his career. Before this past year, where he got hurt, clearly was not 100%, even coming back. He was not the same guy. We can all agree. Like, he just was not the same. He tried. He gave it a go. Wasn't 100%. Years before 2021, 12-4, 11-5, 10-6, 9-7, 10-5-1, 10-6, 12-4, 13-3, 11-5. That's double-digit wins all but 1 year of his career. Don't you dare tell me he's washed up. And some of these past years with the Seahawks, you know that the line's been terrible. They're held together by duct tape and glue. Russell Wilson's been the only thing keeping that team together. And Jake, I want to address you, because you said he's out of his prime. Before he got injured this past season, he had 40 touchdowns and 13 picks. 40 touchdowns and 13 picks. Don't you dare tell me this guy's washed up when he throws 40 touchdowns.
I didn't say he was washed up, John.
You said he's out of his prime.
All I said was he's not as good as he was like 10 years ago.
Before that, he threw 31 touchdowns and 5 picks. The year before that, 35 touchdowns, 7 picks a year before that. 34 touchdowns, 11 picks a year before that. Where's he out of his prime, man?
John.
Where?
John, relax.
Where? Tell me where he's out of his prime with those stats.
If you relax for a second, I will tell you.
I give him his pass this past year with being injured. I give him his pass. But the years before that, years I read to you, 4 straight years, 34 touchdowns, 35, 31, 40. Don't you dare tell me he's washed up because I still think he has a lot in the tank. Thank you.
You were done?
I just had to make sure you
done?
knew the stats.
You're
facts. Some facts.
You're done. All I said was, based on what we saw this past year, I was just trying to use this most recent year. All right? Relax. Russell Wilson did not have as nearly as good of a season. Okay? All I'm saying is his QBR this year was down. Okay? His yards were down. His touchdowns were down. His interceptions were, I guess you could say, consistent because it's the same amount of interceptions, but he threw, if you do touchdown to interception ratio, that is down. John, all I'm saying is in 14 games this year, he had his worst season yet.
Right.
I'm not saying
he did have the club finger or whatever.
Hold on, relax. I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is bad. I still think he's a great quarterback. There's never been that word out of my mouth. All I was saying was, I think this past year may be indicative of what he may be in his future. I'm not saying he's going to be this bad. I'm not saying he's not going to break 30 touchdowns. He may still do that. All I'm saying is he had a bad offensive line. He's going to have a bad offensive line again this year. I think that the Russell Wilson we saw this past year is going to be somewhat indicative of what we will see for the rest of his career. It doesn't mean he's bad. I'm not saying he's dead. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's a limp player just out there, kind of like Peyton Manning was, when he was with the Broncos at the end of his tenure. I'm not saying that. I think honestly, what we're going to see with Russell Wilson is probably something very similar to Peyton Manning, which is he's going to be pretty good for a couple of years, and then he's going to fall off, and he's going to be literally dead. But that's okay, because my point is, I think for Russell Wilson, I don't think he's going to reach that Peyton Manning level. I think that's a little much, but I think he will be good again this year. He'll be good again the next year. He'll be good again maybe that year after, and then he'll taper off, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I was just simply saying, I don't think you're going to see the 40 touchdown years in these next couple of years. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I don't think we're going to see those 40 touchdowns. I'm not saying we're not going to see close to 30 or maybe, just in those low 30s. I'm not saying that. They totally could see those really high 20s, low 30s still, which is still good. But I'm saying when Russell Wilson was at his peak, something like a 40 touchdowns a year would be nothing to him. That's what I mean by that. And I'm not just going off the statistics. I'm going off of the way he played, the way he actually was able to play the game, because that's the way he was. That's all. He's getting older, and that's the way it goes. It's not a knock on him. I think he's going to be great for this team.
But he's only thrown 40 touchdowns once in his career. That was 2020.
You're right. But look at I'll give you a solid stretch from 17 to 20. He didn't throw under 30 touchdowns. He threw for most of the time 34 or more. That's what I'm saying. That was when he was really at his peak. I'm saying he's just going to fall off a little bit more. That's all. Just a little bit.
So in regard to that, Jake, then what do you consider a little bit to be? Because
just a couple touchdowns.
Okay, so let's go from 35 to 31.
Maybe 30.
Would that be favorable?
Yeah, and that's it. That's all I'm saying.
That's still putting him in a different level. Okay,
yes.
We've seen quarterbacks go through the process of having good and bad moments. However, Russell Wilson, as John pointed out, even though he was screaming, his points are valid. This man, on average, over the last 4 to 5 years, averaged 34 touchdowns. Okay, so you bringing him into a situation in Denver where they need a leader. They need an experienced quarterback to come in and lead this team. And Russell Wilson is that. So how they address the free agency, how they address the draft, how they address training camp is going to speak volumes as to where this team is going to rank. But again, I go back to what I said earlier. You have to face Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr twice once in your home stadium and once you go travel. So that's why it's imperative that we look at this and say, okay, if we feel Russ is tapering off, then we have to, no matter what his record is, we have to say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers, because Father Time is undefeated. I feel both of these men could play another 3 years. I don't know if they're going to be consistent, but I feel they could play. But if Russell Wilson even has, let's just say, a quarter more time throughout the entire season where he doesn't have to scramble, then we're truly going to see what Russell Wilson is. Because what do we know about Russell Wilson? He takes the ball, takes 5 steps back, has to scramble left to right, hold the ball for way too long, and then shoot rainbows up in the air and tell you that Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, go get it.
Yep.
But he is one of the best at throwing that rainbow.
And the thing is, like, these past couple years, he's had Chris Carson, who's always injured. He's had mainly that. He hasn't had Marshawn Lynch, the real Marshawn Lynch, in a long time. He has Javonte Williams, who is really, really good. And I think this guy's going to be a stud. And I think him and Wilson together, and Mike Munchak, who, if you know anything about Mike Munchak, is a Hall of Fame. This guy's amazing as an offensive line coach. They have him, so that run game is going to be amazing. I think that'll complement Wilson a lot. I think maybe his touchdown numbers do come down a little bit. I think that'd be because Javonte Williams runs the ball and runs in more touchdowns.
There you go.
But that's good for them.
But that's my point.
Because you want to be able to run the ball, eat the clock up, control the game.
My point was, John,
and then that opens up the game.
I'm not saying Russell Wilson is going to be bad. I just meant we may not see the Russell Wilson from a couple of years ago where he really does everything for a team. He probably won't have able to do necessarily. He may be able to do less because he's got a more well-rounded team now, and that's not a bad thing. None of this was meant to be
not at all.
Russell Wilson's bad. He's he's old, he's decrepit. I think he's going to do wonders for this team. I really do, and that's why I brought up Peyton Manning.
So you think it'll be kind of like the Seahawks with the Legion of Boom type of team? You know what I mean? Where it's run the ball, control the clock. I don't
know if I want to compare them that way, just because.
No, I'm just saying, like, based on
but if you mean play style, yes, I think I could definitely see that kind of concept. If you mean in talent and how well they play,
scheme-wise,
I could see that. I could see that because they do have a strong defense. But anyway, the reason I brought up Peyton Manning was it's again the same concept where you have a good quarterback coming into a system which has solid solid weapons, right, and a strong defense. It's eerily reminiscent, and it's completely different quarterbacks with totally different play styles and talents, but it's a very similar situation, which is why I said, you know what, I do feel somewhat confident in this team's ability to end up maybe making a run because it's that similar concept where strong defense again, solid quarterback, even though he's older, right, and solid weapons, anything can happen. Denver's proved they've done it once. There's no reason they can't. And Von Miller may be coming back. He's hinted at wanting to come back to Denver already. And now that they add a quarterback, like Russell Wilson, I would not be surprised if he gave a home team, he said, let me give you a little hometown discount and come back to Denver. I can see it. He's hinted at on his social media. He's heavily considering it. He said, I wonder if they'll have me back, I think is what he said.
So, all right. I know we're short on time, but I'm assuming the third topic was Calvin Ridley. If I'm wrong, please tell me.
You are 100% correct. That's what I wanted to bring up.
So let me just say this about Calvin Ridley. And I preface my comments by saying, like we said earlier, these are my comments and my comments alone. Okay. Calvin Ridley was away from his team. Calvin Ridley he wasn't allowed on the field. He wasn't allowed in the building.
He had no contact with the team whatsoever.
No contact with the team whatsoever. So he decided to bet on his team.
Yep.
And because of that, and if what they said is true, that DraftKings were the one that snitched on him, I'm like, hold up, man. I mean, that's just wrong on so many levels. But if in fact that is true.
The thing is, the NFL has an app. They have a system to where he played the only legal betting app in the state, and the NFL has this thing called Genius, and it's supposed to flag whenever people, coaches, players, whatever, are participating in these things, and it flagged him and the NFL was notified by their very own system. So
Okay.
it wasn't fit. It wasn't like DraftKings said, "Hey, guess what? Calvin Ridley's, betting."
It was.
It was
I
a
think he used
system that the
FanDuel
NFL has
actually,
put
but
in
that's
place.
okay.
All right.
Right.
Whichever
Doesn't
it
matter.
was.
Yeah, I'm
What
just
I'm
like-
saying
It
is
doesn't
this. How Calvin Ridley doesn't have, number one, the common sense, and number two, someone in his party, his group, his posse, his boys, to be like, bro, what the hell are you doing? And because of you breaking the rules, we talked about this with every other league, now you're suspended for the entire season.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Like,
so let me-
like, what were you thinking on this, Calvin Ridley?
Two
You are
things.
Matt Ryan's number one guy. This was your moment. The division was open for you to take over. And now Matt Ryan doesn't have you?
Yeah. So let me say two things. First of all, you talk about the suspension being the full season. I'm sorry, but I saw this on social media and it infuriated me when I thought about it. Let me give you a couple examples of some other players and their length of suspension and what they did. Ray Rice, he beat his fiance. He was only suspended for 2 games. Ezekiel Elliott, he hit a woman. He was suspended for 6 games. Josh Gordon, for drug use, was suspended for, a million different times.
Marijuana. Let's call it marijuana.
But it was suspended over and over again, but each time was not super lengthy. Calvin Ridley bets on a game. He's suspended for a full season. Now I understand they got to make a guinea pig. They got to make an example out of him. But in no way can I understand how the NFL claims, yeah, this guy bet on games, he gets suspended a full season. This guy beats his fiance 2 games. I'm sorry, but if that's the precedent you're setting, to me, unacceptable, egregious, pathetic, disgusting, a million different descriptions I can use. It bothers me to no avail because it's just, I understand betting on games is wrong, completely understood. And I understand you should be suspended, but you're telling me that physically abusing another human being is not nearly as bad? That's not a good precedent to be setting. That's number one. And number two, I actually want to give credit to the Falcons organization because I saw this the other day and I actually was really impressed with them. So the Falcons knew that there was a chance he might be suspended. I'm sure they were informed about what was happening and the league investigating. The Falcons intentionally did not entertain any conversations about trading Ridley because of the fact that they knew about the suspension. Now, they didn't have to do that, but to the Falcons' credit, I say, you know what? I give you guys respect for that because you knew he might be in trouble. And instead of thinking, let me trade away my problems, you said, no. That's not fair of us to do that to you without you knowing it because other teams may not have known that. Good on them. As far as what he did, you know the rules. You got what was coming to you. Again, the suspension length and all that, I take a problem with. You understood. I said my piece. But, come on, man. Just you know what's going to happen. You know if you get caught, what you're going to get caught, it's not going to end well. Just, what are you thinking?
As I said before, the NFL is not, they're all about getting in bed with these gambling companies and making, what did I say, $270 million they were supposed to make off of gambling companies before the start of this past season. They're all about that. But then whenever it comes to a guy gambling on the game, which I let me preface, that's wrong. I don't believe in it. I think it's not okay. But the NFL, is all about promoting gambling and all this stuff, making all this money. But then whenever somebody else does it in the league, it's like, hey, we're going to hit you with a year suspension. Like you said, Jake, Kareem Hunt, Greg Hardy got to come back and play for the Cowboys. Like all these instances of these guys getting short suspensions or getting to come back and really gets hit with a year suspension. I just think it's a bit hypocritical of the NFL.
I agree.
To be in bed with these gambling companies and then knock somebody for gambling on the game. I just think it's a bit hypocritical. I'm against, anybody being able to gamble on the game. But then again, like I said last night, these guys play fantasy football, right? I'm sure they put money in pots with each other. That's gambling.
Oh.
Not opposed to that, are you? That's gambling. Just saying.
Yeah, I agree. All right, gentlemen, we are basically out of time, so let's wrap things up here. And if there's any final thoughts, go right ahead. If not, I'll throw it to John first to just our usual wrap up.
Yep.
You know how
Fox,
it goes.
Fox Sports 1340 AM, Sideline Sports Network, of course. You can find all of our stuff on Sideline Sports YouTube page. We have all of our great shows. Make sure you check all of them out all throughout the week, Sunday through Saturday. We have shows every single day, so you're going to check them out. Bluehawks13 on Twitter, Bluehawks13 NFL on Instagram. Eric?
Your man Eric Wilson, Monday and Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, Sports Arena. The second best show. We're part of the Sideline Sports Network family. Yeah, I said it. Damn it. But I mean, listen, from the NBA carousel to the NFL carousel to the gauntlet to the play callers, Sports Arena, Sideline Sports. I mean, we got a whole litany of shows, the pundits. So just,
Squad Pod.
Squad Pod, the whole entire rundown of this family is just amazing. Tomorrow night's going to be interesting. Got some special guests in the house. Make sure you check it out. EC Wilson 76 on Twitter and IG.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Jake_Malik. On this show, I may pop up on other shows, all the Sideline Sports stuff. You guys can find Sideline Sports, more importantly, as you see scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Instagram is Twitter, Sideline Sport 1. YouTube and Facebook, we got pages. We got all that stuff. Just look up Sideline Sports. We're on DBNI Television. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all that, TikTok. I think that's everything. I don't think I missed anything. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Jon Shearer, just remember, when you see this right here, baby, I'm your worst nightmare. And you